Hi there, everybody. My name is Dr. Heath McAllister, and I am excited to talk to you today about exosomes and the therapeutic potential for using them for nerve injuries, spinal cord injuries, and chronic pain. So, first, I just wanted to go over, because it's still not yet a household name, what are exosomes? So, exosomes are small, nano-sized vesicles that are able to deliver bioactive cargo to recipient cells. So what the heck does that mean? They are messages and instructions for all of our cells to rejuvenate and to heal. And they're very tiny, so that means they can go all throughout your body. They can go to your brain, they can go to your liver, your kidneys, your nerve cells, all parts of your body. The exosomes can diffuse through your tissues and reach all of those target cells. When they reach your cells that are needing help, they deliver these instructions to your cells. And what do those instructions tell your cells to do? Well, a whole variety of things. Everything from healing, if the cells are damaged, decreasing inflammation, normalizing immune function, improving connective tissue. So when we have wounds, we have scar tissue, helps remodel those areas so that they're more organized and stronger. So lots of different ways that exosomes deliver signals to your normal healthy cells to get them to heal and to rejuvenate. So specifically, when we're talking about the spinal cord or nerve injuries or pain, we're trying to affect the nerves, either the central nervous system, brain, spinal column, or all the different nerves that spread throughout our body. Exosomes do deliver a lot of crosstalk between our neurons, our glia, our immune cells, our endothelial cells. So we have many different cell types that comprise the nervous system. And how do those different cells talk to each other and coordinate with each other and help you to feel your best? So now exosomes are, people ask me all the time, well, what's the difference between exosomes and stem cells? Aren't they the same thing? They're same, but different. So exosomes are extracted from stem cells. Well, really all cells can produce exosomes. An exosome is considered a paracrine signaling type of communication between our cells. So essentially, some of the DNA inside our cells and micro DNA, micro RNA can bud off from a cell and form a little packet of cell membrane and then instructions. And then those little packets float around to neighboring cells, but merge with that cell membrane and deliver those microRNA signals and so forth. That is essentially all going on in your body at all times. Now, the difference between using therapeutic exosomes and just that normal process that's already happening in your body is that when you take a cell and bud off a little bit of its membrane and its signaling instructions inside, that is representative of that cell's potential. So that means that if you take a cell that's aged or worn out or not as vital, it's going to basically be transmitting less vital exosome signaling. Versus you can take a beginning of life cell, what's called a mesenchymal stem cell from placental tissue. Those exosomes are from beginning of life stem cells. So they are the most vibrant, the most potent, and the most able to affect positive, healthy changes in our cells. So while exosomes are not stem cells, they are originally derived from stem cells when we use them therapeutically. Some people may ask, well, why don't you just use stem cells? Well, those mesenchymal stem cells from placental tissue, they are used. People use them all the time, probably thousands of times a day they're being used. However, they're not your cells. And all of our cells have a name tag that says, I am Dr. McAllister cells, and you are whoever your cells are, and that they don't necessarily play well together. That's why if you take an organ from one person and transplant it to another person, you have to suppress that person's immune system in order for the body not to reject that organ. So a similar process would happen with with stem cells from another human being. Your body will figure it out eventually. It may take a few days, it may take a week, but it will eventually figure out those are not your cells. So I think stem cell therapies have their merits and they have their issues. I feel that exosomes represent the most potent form of health and healing that I've ever discovered. I think you're cutting out the middleman, you're getting a very pure, potent product, and that's having a very direct, immediate effect on all of your tissues. So, what are the ways we can repair neurologic tissues? Well, the first thing we can do is reduce inflammation. So that's what we call neuroinflammation or microglial modulation, where we're trying to tune down those inflammatory signals. Inflammation is a natural process that happens in the body. It's when it goes out of control or it goes for too long that it can really degrade our tissues. So all of your cells have an ability to upregulate or downregulate inflammation. And in this case, for facilitating neurologic repair, we want to downregulate that inflammation. So we're having less of that inflammatory chatter happening in your nervous system. Another essential component of neurologic repair is getting axonal growth and remyelination. So axon, so a nerve has a big ball of tissue and then it has a long tail where it connects to another nerve. And then it has little peripheral outshoots called dendrites. But in any case, all that tail, the way we connect to other nerves, if that gets severed, then we have a lack of transmission through that nerve. So that's nerve damage, and essentially, a mechanical, could be crush injuries, various different ways we can have that nerve damage where that axon flow is cut off. So we want to promote the axon to grow and to touch the neighboring neurons so it can continue transmitting that signal through that neuronal pathway. And then myelination. So all of our neurons, all of our nerve cells are wrapped in this fluffy insulation called myelin, which is essentially based off of cholesterol, but helps speed transmission along that neuronal pathway. So having good myelin is going to really affect the quality of that signal and the integrity of that signal as it passes down that neural pathway. Other mechanisms that we want to use to repair neuronal damage is enhancing a process called angiogenesis. So angiogenesis means the growth of new blood vessels. Essentially, our blood is the greatest conduit of nutrients in our body. That's why we have blood vessels flowing all throughout our body to bring that nutrient-rich blood to those areas to deliver oxygen and vitamins and so forth. So if you have better blood flow to an area, you have better healing in general. So stimulating that process to reestablish good blood flow to an area is essential for healing. Another thing that we want to try and affect when we're trying to help cure neuronal tissue is to slow or stop the process of cell death. So all of our cells can go through a process called apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. Once you've replicated enough times, the cell's basically decommissioned and it has its own instructions that tell it, hey, it's the end, you're done, you're out of here. But if you can extend cellular lifespan, now you have those cells functioning for longer. That is literally longevity. Longevity meaning a longer life if we can increase the longevity of those cells. And exosomes have been shown to reduce apoptosis, as well as reduce oxidative stress on our tissues. Oxidative stress is one of the ways that our tissues get damaged, right? So those would be free radicals, and exosomes are known to slow that process and really decrease that process, along with having an anti-inflammatory effect. And then some other important cells that are involved in neuronal repair are Schwann cells, oligodendrocytes, and so forth. They are subtending all of our neuronal pathways and making sure that things are working properly. You could think about them as like the road crew that's repairing the road and cleaning up the trash and so forth. We want to foster those cells to also be very active to stimulate neuronal repair. So peripheral nerve injury. So this is, when we have in animal models and human models where we have a pathway that's been interrupted. So that would be, maybe you injured your shoulder or maybe you injured your arm and now you have tingling or numbness or paresthesia. What do you do about that? Well, in animal models, they have shown that when we infuse exosomes into an animal, they have improved axonal regeneration. So that means those axons did lengthen. That was one of the tenets that we wanted for our healing. There were also enhanced Schwann cell proliferation. Again, the road crew or that cleanup crew that's there to help facilitate the whole process to work properly. Those cells were enhanced. There was overall increased functional recovery. That means there was better movement, better sensory and motor movement. Reduced fibrosis and inflammation. So this is, again, that reworking of the connective tissue and that, so we have nice organized connective tissue versus scattered scarring and so forth. Reduced inflammation. We said that was one of the things that we really did want to facilitate the growth process. And then, a lot of kind of better scaffolding was observed in the animal model. So from a peripheral nerve standpoint, infusing or injecting exosomes has that potential to help lengthen the axons, decreasing inflammation, improve the accessory cells, the Schwann cells, reducing fibrosis, reducing inflammation, the whole package. It's exactly what we want when we're trying to heal nerves. And I would say editorially that nerves don't heal well on their own. They grow very, very slowly. The brain doesn't heal well on its own. So the nervous system and the peripheral nervous system are two systems that, unless you do something really, make a concerted effort to heal those tissues, they generally are long considered they didn't heal. We now don't know that's not true, but you have to do certain things to really facilitate that healing process. So what about spinal cord injury? What do we see in the research? So again, with animal models, because it's easier to do this research on animals, although they are doing a lot of experimental research on humans, it's not, we haven't collected enough of that research to say definitively what the trend will be. But in animal models, we have seen that there's reduced size of lesions. So the lesion would be the area where there was the cellular damage. So the cellular damage points shrunk. There was also enhanced neuronal survival and synaptic plasticity. So neuronal survival, again, that's that longevity of our nerve cells, that they were living longer and they were showing more versatility, probably in their collateral pathways, the side pathways that help kind of circumvent around an injury, so the dendritic connections. And then there were a lot of studies that showed improved motor outcomes. So that, at the end of the day, those are the two things that we're looking for with nerve injuries. Do you get better sensory repair, and do you have better motor function? And then as a side note, that most of the research that's been done where they test for this, they will show that when you give exosomes, you see improved vascular repair. So the vascular system, the heart, but all the blood vessels. So again, the angiogenesis, that construction of new blood vessels to have better blood flow to areas that are damaged or needing extra help. And then in chronic neuropathic pain, so these are people that have pain, over a long period of time, usually from some kind of traumatic injury, that they have been shown with exosome treatments to reduce those inflammatory cytokines, so those inflammatory molecules that all cells can produce that are being overproduced and chronically produced, that the exosomes can help tone that chatter down. Exosomes have been shown to modulate glial activation. So these glial cells, the microglial cells, again, they're some of the cleanup crew of the nervous system. Generally speaking, they've shown less central sensitization of when you use an exosome treatment for patients that have chronic neuropathic pain. So that means they're less aware or less sensitive to that pain signal. Improved nerve repair right after injury. And so, again, we're looking at all these different ways to heal nerves and neurons in the central nervous system or the peripheral nervous system. And we're checking off all the boxes, right? Stimulating the accessory cells, reducing inflammation, improving, the axonal length, improving the glial cells. All of that is exactly what you're going to want to get from a treatment to help heal the central and peripheral nervous system. So there are hundreds of preclinical studies that have demonstrated improved motor recovery, enhanced axonal regeneration, reduced inflammation, and then when they do nerve conduction studies and they actually they put electrodes on, they're seeing a better transmission of that electrical signal down the neuronal pathway. So we have great evidence from animal models, particularly rodent models, and then for human models, there's early phase clinical studies. So we have these early studies that are being done right now. So we don't have any of those randomized trials proving efficacy right now. However, it is being done for those people who have had major damage to their central or peripheral nervous system. There are not a lot of great options out there for you. As far as I can tell, exosomes may be the best thing that's ever come down the pipe to help heal up those tissues. And the jury's still out. Everything's uncertain. I consider exosomes a biologic wild card. Getting an exosome treatment, it's going to benefit you, but how much? Is it going to exactly affect the thing that you want it to affect? Does it give you some general benefit and so forth? Fortunately, I've seen a lot of incredible, miraculous effects from exosome treatments, so I can speak from experience that the majority of my patients see significant improvement on all range of health-related issues when using exosomes. So some considerations for using exosomes for these kind of conditions. If you want to broadcast the signal over the whole body, your IV is the best way to do that, right? There are people that also do what's called intrathecal, which means into the cerebral spinal fluid themselves. So it's not something I have personal experience with, but I know that is done, and that would be a way to try and more preferentially bathe the spinal cord and the brain with the exosomes. You can also do local injections. Let's say if there was a local nerve injury to a specific spot, you could inject that specific spot, not into the veins, but into the actual muscle or near the nerves. I would also say that there are a lot of different types of quality of exosomes on the market. It's kind of the Wild West out there in terms of people claiming high concentrations and so forth. And I would say, generally speaking, you get what you pay for in life. And if you get the really cheap exosomes, you're going to get a cheap outcome. So, I feel that our clinic uses the highest quality exosomes that are on the market, and they're also the most expensive. But we've seen the most incredible clinical results from using those exosomes. So if that's something that you're interested in, and if you'd like to explore it with me, I do offer all patients who are considering exosome treatments a 30-minute free exosome discovery session. No strings attached at all. If you don't want to do the treatment, you don't ever have to do the treatment. But if you want to know if you're a good candidate for it, message me. Look in the link below. You can sign up for that exosome discovery session. I love talking to people about the power of exosomes, and I'm not a salesman. I will tell you if I think you're a good candidate or not, and then it's your choice if you want to do it. I would also say that, going back to the nerve recovery, that we're very big supporters of using rehabilitation, so physical therapy, occupational therapy, to help with reestablishing function, reestablishing collateral pathways. Sometimes these people that have had significant central nervous system damage essentially need to relearn certain things like talking and walking and so forth. And our physical therapists, our occupational therapists are invaluable in that way. So I wouldn't say that exosomes are a one and done. I think if you need to pull a heavy cart, tie up all the horses, get all your pulling, use all the tools at your disposal to help heal such sensitive tissues like the central and peripheral nervous system. So if anyone is interested, you know how to reach me. Down at the bottom of this page, there is the place where you can sign up for an exosome discovery session. I hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit me up with any questions that come up, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.